Hello and welcome to Hyperproduction TV. In this episode I'm going to be showing you the difference between parallel and series effects chains within Logic Pro 10. So I've got a project that I've sort of been working on slightly here. The whole reason behind this video is to show you the difference between placing an audio effects plugin actually in the channel strip as opposed to sending it out on a bus to then adding the effects to the original signal. So I've got the main audio that I'm going to be affecting here is this main bass, but first I'll just show you what we're working with. Okay, so we're going to make this bass just stand out a little bit more. It's sounding a little bit dry at the moment. So the first thing we're going to sort of do to it, to give it that more pumping feel of sort of house, we're going to put a sidechain plugin here. It will go off the screen slightly because the resolution's not the same as what YouTube wants. This is deadmau5's plugin range, and then we're going to put it on the preset onto sidechain. Now the way this plugin works is it uses filtering of sort of volume and frequencies to create a sidechain pumping effect, as opposed to using a traditional compression plugin and using the sidechain utility on that against another piece of audio. So if I just mute that, you'll sort of see what I mean. And then bypassed. I find this plugin's really helpful. It kind of offers a bit more of a cleaner sidechain utility to it, instead of, because sometimes when you're sidechaining basses to a particular kick, that kick might not be there in particular parts of the track, whereas this is a guaranteed way of making sure that that particular track and where that bass part is in terms of the audio region, you know that there's going to be a sidechaining pumping effect, and if you don't want it there, then you can just automate the bypass for it. So you can see there we want it to affect the channel strip because we want it in the channel kind of constantly throughout when that audio region is there. So it's quite fine to just leave that within the channel strip up here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to add a slight bit of saturation as well. So just to make it, stand out a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to just let the track play and I'll show you, and you just follow sort of what I'm doing. So already, just by using one of the presets on FabFilter Saturn, which is an absolutely amazing saturation plugin, by the way, I highly recommend it. It just automatically opens up that bass, gives it a little bit of adds a few more harmonic frequencies to it, i.e. sort of a semi-distortion if you like, but without the harshness of most sort of overdrive or distortion plugins. Okay, so these effects are within the series of a channel strip, so we're directly affecting the signal flow before it goes to the output. Okay, so we are affecting that signal flow directly. Now when we talk about parallel effects, it means that we're adding an effect to that sound, so we're not actually changing the sound as such, we're just sending the original signal off to somewhere else and then bringing that signal back, but on a separate channel to then go to the output. So another thing that I feel like will help that bass is adding a gated reverb effect. So the first thing we're going to do is send it to a bus. I've already got one set up here. You just simply click on that or hold it down and then go down to bus and then send it to bus 1. Now I've named this sort of bass verb, and then we're going to put it onto a read. Okay, so as you can see, I've already got a few Space Designer plugins on here. and the channel EQ just to take out a bit of the bottom end as well. Now in Logic, it's got a real cool reverb plugin. This is probably the most advanced one that they do have, called Space Designer. Now they've really gone in depth with all the impulse responses within this plugin, so it's a really high-end plugin. I mean, probably not as good and not as sort of it's not as well replicated as what Waves do, or maybe Universal Audio, because those boys, you know, they really do go into it quite advanced. But this is more than enough what you'll need if you're just starting out, or in fact you just want a sort of quick, nice sounding reverb. It's got plenty of options within the plugins as well. Within the presets. So I've gone down to small spaces onto gated reverbs and then snare stretch. Okay, now I'm just going to pull this fader down, and then I'm going to introduce this fader as it comes in, and you'll see what I mean. So it just adds that sort of wideness to it. Now that we've cut the low end, we're not going to be having any difficulty fitting in the lower frequencies, and they're not going to be battling for space. And also against the kick, because we've got that sidechain on, it's going to all be fitting in really nicely. Now another thing you can do is probably just make this a little bit brighter. Okay, so let's hear it in the context of the track as well. So we'll go from this build up here, and then we'll take the solos off. And then as I'm playing through this example, I'm going to be sort of muting the bass reverb on there, and I'm going to be taking out a few of the channel strips, and you can kind of get a feel as to you know, what plugins are exactly doing what. So you can see, just by adding a few simple plugins there, we're just opening up that bass, and it's making it sound real big, real involved in the track, and kind of making it a bit more of a highlighted point as well. Okay, so now I'm going to show you, just like if we put that Space Designer actually within the channel strip there, because what you're doing effectively, you're not affecting the dry signal. You're just you're going to be like putting like basically reverb on top of on the saturation plugin. Okay, so then if we just take off the Space Designer plugin, or in fact just mute it, get rid of that, and then we'll add it onto here, and you'll see what I mean. If I can find it, there we are. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, we're going to go to the small spaces, gated reverbs, snare, stretch. Okay, so I'm just going to close that. In fact, I'm going to keep that open for a bit. You won't be able to see the track behind it because the screen's a bit small, but in fact, can we reduce that? Oh, there we go, reduce that slightly. Okay, so then I'm going to play you it. I'm going to take the wets off, and I'm sort of going to introduce it, and you'll sort of see what I mean. It kind of swallows up the sound a bit more. It's not as effective as when you send it out on an auxiliary track. Okay. So as you can hear, it's kind of swallowing up that sound a bit too much. We're not really adding anything to it. We're sort of just basically sending the signal flow through Space Designer on that same channel strip. So when you're trying to like build up sounds and make particular, like, you know, single elements sound bigger, it's definitely worth doing, sending out onto a bus and then affecting that channel and then introducing that channel. Then just send it to various buses. I mean, if you just click underneath here, hold that down, go to bus, and you can send it to God knows how many buses. Look, 64. There you are. So you can have 64 different effects affecting one signal, one audio file, but you know, that's probably a bit ridiculous. Okay, so then what I'll do, I'll take this off and you can hear, I'll mute this and then unmute that so you can hear the difference. See how it just makes everything sound a little bit more controlled, a little bit more polished, and you're not actually necessarily losing anything because we're adding to that particular sound. Okay, so I hope that explains the difference between series and parallel effects. I mean, try it with anything, so you can just put like chorus effects on there, various other modulation effects, but reverbs and also sidechain compression as well. I mean, parallel compression, sorry, is really helpful for getting drums to sound really, really punchy as well, and I'll be talking over that in a separate video. So I hope you've learned something. Don't forget to subscribe and leave any questions and comments in the section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter so we can let you know first when our website launches. So don't forget to head over to www.hyperproduction.tv and get signed up and be the first to know when we're launching. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.